At my school, they did tell us about sex and everything, but it wasn't enough. I know the teacher was probably too embarrassed to tell us what happens.
At my school, we did have sex education, yeah, but they didn't tell us everything.
The only things we learned were how women became pregnant and that men have to wear a condom. We had information about AIDS, but it wasn't enough. We certainly weren't taught about personal skills and relationships with girls. I didn't learn anything about sex at the hearing school I went to. Nothing at all. It was my father who taught me. He asked me what I already knew about sex, and I said I didn't know anything. So he gave me a book about sex to read.
When I was at school, the sex education was good enough, but we were quite old by then. I wish they'd told us earlier. I still don't know everything. I'd like to know more. Oh, we talked about relationships, pregnancy, marriage.
Really, at school, I was only taught a few things. But then a friend told me much more. It was really great. It was really interesting, and he told me everything. Then when I came to college, I already knew about sex. It wasn't a problem.
Hello, welcome to Your Views. This is the first of 4 programmes focusing on serious issues in the deaf community, which we'll be showing over the next 4 weeks. All of them have been shown before on Sign On, but all of them are about problems that show no sign, unfortunately, of going away. Today we look at problems arising from bad sexual behaviour. The students we've just seen were talking about how little sex education they received at school or from their parents. Although we're inundated with information about sex every day in the media, TV, newspapers and so on, very little of it is educational. So, is the lack of decent sex education affecting our attitudes to relationships and, too often, leading to inappropriate or downright bad behaviour? Later, we'll be giving you a helpline number that you can call if you need help or information on this subject. For now, back to the programme, originally shown in 1993. I presented it along with Rachel Bastikar. We begin with Rachel giving some of the background. We must warn viewers that some of the following discussion is sexually explicit. We are all becoming more aware of sexually related offences. The latest figures available show that in 1991, in England and Wales, there were 15,792 reported cases of indecent assault, which can mean anything from pestering and unsolicited touching to near rape and battery, and over 4,000 reported cases of rape. That's nearly 20,000 cases in all, and it is generally accepted that this is the tip of the iceberg, with more than 50% of women reporting that at some time in their lives they have been sexually harassed or assaulted. What does it mean to be sexually assaulted or sexually abused? The law gives clear definitions of what it means by rape, but it's open to interpretation on sexual abuse, which includes sexual harassment and indecent assault. So, if the law is not clear, how can we know if it's happened to us or not, since we get even less access to information? We've been investigating this subject and have heard of many examples that have occurred in the deaf community which would constitute sexual abuse. Many of us attend deaf community discos and sports presentations. People travel from all over the country to them to dance, chat, drink and have a good time. Some research has indicated that there's a high incidence of rape committed at these events. Some of these start innocently enough, with someone being asked to go outside for some fresh air, but once outside being overpowered and raped either by one person or by a gang of friends. Research has confirmed that at larger deaf clubs up to 4 rapes have been committed, and even in smaller clubs there has usually been at least 1 case of rape. Although these incidents are sometimes witnessed, they're hushed up for fear of bringing a bad name on the club. It happens. Sexual abuse and rape doesn't only happen in the deaf community, it happens in other communities too. But what about the survivors of rape? How are they affected? In the following film, we tell of one person's harrowing experience and of how it affected her. Anne Goldfinch signs the story to keep the person's identity confidential. I was walking through the park. My ex-boyfriend and some of his friends were there playing football. I ignored them and walked past. When I got to the gates at the other side, they were locked. So I turned round. When I was walking back, the three of them suddenly came up and grabbed me. They pushed me into the ladies' toilet. It was really dark in there. I was there for about 2 hours, but it felt like a year. I thought it would never end. One of them held a knife at my throat and they held my wrists down. I struggled. I didn't want it to happen. I wanted to die, but I couldn't get away. I really thought they were going to kill me. They held the knife at my throat, and I thought when they were finished they'd just stab me. I wish they had. 2 of them penetrated me. The other one just helped them, you know. He helped them. He held me down. Afterwards, I felt dirty, really dirty. That was the worst thing, dirty. I kept having baths in bleach. I must have used about 4 or 5 bottles of bleach, and I scrubbed and scrubbed. I never said a word for 5 weeks. Then I told someone. They said, "Why don't you go to the police?" I couldn't. I thought they might accuse me, might say it was my fault for walking through the park, might stand up for them. I didn't want that. I'd read books and things that said you had to talk, tell them everything, go through it all again. I didn't go. I couldn't face it. And it had been 5 weeks. They might say, "Why didn't you come straight away?" I couldn't cope with that. I'm deaf. I didn't have any nightmares for 3 months. Then they started, really bad dreams. And going into the toilet really terrified me. Or if someone came up to me, I'd really panic. All men look like potential rapists to me now. When I was raped, the floor was littered with old food debris. They forced me to eat it. Now I think that food is really dirty. The sight and the smell of it turns my stomach. People who've been raped think that sex is dirty. I think that sex is dirty and food is dirty. Really, I can't eat in front of people now. The minute I put food in my mouth, I feel like everyone's looking at me. I feel exposed. It was really dark in there. I can't remember seeing much, except for the knife. I can't use a knife now. I break bread with my fingers. I can't use a knife. I had sex education at school, but they said rape was just like a dark alley and a dirty old man in a raincoat, a pervert. But it's not like that, really. It can happen anywhere, at any time of the day or night. It can be anyone. Obviously, a painful experience, which can't be easily forgotten. The majority of incidents are committed by men on women. But men also suffer sexual harassment and abuse from other men. Many deaf sports clubs, such as football, cricket and others, have peculiar traditional initiation ceremonies. We have been told of examples where the older club members have taken great pleasure in planning a surprise for the unsuspecting newcomer. This might involve stripping them naked and refusing to return their clothes for some hours, group sexual assault, or even buggery. People think it's a harmless joke, but these incidents have been known to have serious effects on the survivors. Howard Beck, chair of the AIDS Ahead group, is also aware of some of these incidents.
In Britain, there have been 33 reported incidents of men raping men, cases that have been reported to either the police or a hospital or wherever. These statistics came to light only after the recent rape of a man on a London tube train, and these are only the reported incidents. There could be more that we don't know about. Now, with respect to the deaf community, there have been 4 reported incidents, and proportionally that's a high percentage, so there's a higher risk of rape. You can imagine someone being taken advantage of because of a lack of communication and being raped, and that's why the percentages are higher, particularly amongst disabled or deaf men.
What can the deaf community do to help the survivors of these ordeals? A lot of research now recognises that survivors need considered counselling. Those who have been through the dreadful experience of rape or assault often react with feelings of fear, panic, depression, shame, guilt, confusion and anger. These emotions affect different people in different ways. So how can the deaf community help those who have experienced such trauma? Recently, the BDA's Health Promotion Service began to look into this area, and Carolyn visited them to see what they've been doing. Can you explain why the BDA established its Health Promotion Service?
The establishment of the BDA's Health Promotion Service emerged from AIDS Ahead. AIDS Ahead is still in existence, but the service side now comes under the BDA Health Promotion banner. The reason for this expansion is because AIDS Ahead, through their work, realised there was a great demand. There was a need for a lot of other things, such as sexual health, sex education, and that opens up a whole different set of issues in itself, and that just scratches the surface. Really, we found that deaf people who had been raped had no access to support. Sexual assault was occurring because of bad sexual behaviour, amongst other reasons. Also, for a lot of deaf people, education at school, sex education, was very limited. Maybe how babies are born, but that was it. And that's not good enough. They need educating on a whole raft of issues, like sexual values, respect for other people. Learning no means no. If, as an example, you take two people, a man and a woman or whoever, and one of them would like to have sex and the other says no, then you have to respect that no. When it came to it, a lot of the cases we were dealing with were particularly related to sexual abuse, sexual assault and rape. We found that deaf women, and men too, had no access to help or support from anywhere. That's one of the reasons why we went about setting up and developing this area. Though it's still linked to AIDS Ahead, of course. This goes much wider than that.
What are the BDA doing about this situation? How will they improve it?
The BDA are improving the situation. They've started to improve the situation already. We've established a support group, a volunteer support group, to help raped and sexual abused people. The course was a couple of weeks ago, which was very successful. I coordinated the course and participated on the course, and this support will be ongoing.
At last, something is now being done to train deaf women to counsel other deaf women on this sensitive subject. But what about men? Where do they go to seek advice, help and guidance? Rachel asked Howard Beck. Howard, how did the men's health group start? Whose idea was it?
Because of my involvement with AIDS Ahead as chair and in association with the BDA Health Promotion, I realised that we needed a male health group. We already have a women's health project, which is great, and from its activity, I thought that men needed much the same forum to be established. Because men don't have the opportunity to talk or to express their feelings. Those things are kept close to their chest. So something needed to be set up, like a workshop, or if that wasn't appropriate, because some men don't want to put themselves in that environment, one-to-one discussions. And that's fine. It's entirely their choice. There are other workers apart from me from whom they can choose, but contact me initially through AIDS Ahead. We've already established 2 small groups, one in London, one in Manchester, which is a good start. We recently had a brainstorming where we put a programme together, and they're doing the same in London. We're planning in the near future 2 workshops, one in the north and one in the south. So that's how it's going.
And what's the men's health group aiming to achieve? What are your hopes?
Firstly, the workshops will not be focusing solely on health issues. There'll be many other items that will be discussed. Health, of course, we can discuss that. Sexual behaviour and related problems, sexual issues, sexual abuse. The use of language, our own sign language, and its ability to oppress. Attitudes towards women, attitudes towards gay men, and image too. So those types of issues, broadly speaking, will be discussed.
So there are people who recognise that a lack of sex education and information is where the weakness lies. Although the situation is now improving, how do we stop history repeating itself? Join us after the break to find out. Have a pen and paper ready. We'll be giving you the number of a confidential helpline. See you in a few minutes. Welcome back. Whose responsibility is it to teach us about appropriate sexual attitudes? Should we really bother to learn such things? We asked students at Derby College what they thought was the best way to handle relationships.
If I liked her and she was a nice girl, it might be difficult because we'd both be shy, but if she was a nice person and then we talked to each other, personality comes first. If we liked each other, then the relationship would come first. We would talk more as time went on, and if she's a nice person and we were well suited and there was no nasty teasing or bad attitudes, if we found over time that we were perfect for each other and we were equally matched, it'd be great. We could fall in love.
I'd like a boyfriend to treat me with respect. That's what I want. I'd want to get to know each other first and be happy together before doing anything.
Definitely. When I was at school, before I came to college, I had a girlfriend, and it was difficult because there were things that I didn't understand. We were doing things before we knew each other properly. It wasn't until I came to college that a tutor told me, you shouldn't do it straight away. And when I asked why, they said personality comes first, not looks. It's personality that's important. They said you should get close and talk. And if she's nice and you're suited, just ignore other people and let them get on with their own lives. Then you can just get on with it. Get it together.
I'd rather, like, if I was out travelling about, meet a boy and talk. I'd ask him where he lived, tell him where I live, chat, you know, make friends. Then if he asked me out, that'd be fine, we could talk some more.
As girls, we've got to respect boys. We've got to think and be careful, not go too far, not give them the wrong idea. You've got to think twice and not let it go too far. You should think about it and take your time. We've mentioned counselling a number of times today, but what does counselling mean? There are counselling courses training deaf counsellors not only on sexual assault and rape, but on a variety of issues. You might be interested yourself. Recently, an introductory course has been established at Manchester University, run by research psychologist Sharon Ridgway. We went to find out more about it.
The course here started because through my work I realised that a lot of deaf people wanted counselling, and they wanted a counsellor who was sensitive to deaf issues. They needed deaf professionals and there weren't any. So there was a need and there was a great demand created by increasing awareness. So I asked the university if they would agree to set up something here, and they did. And they've been marvellously supportive. We've now developed a 10-week introductory course which leads on to a certificate and then a diploma. So there's some great new developments here on a par with other hearing courses.
I mean, what you say might not be right. Is that what you mean? What response? Oh, I'd want to say something, but at the same time I wouldn't be able to.
When you're counselling, you have to keep an open mind and watch out for bad attitudes creeping in. An open mind and a good attitude makes it comfortable to talk. What does counselling mean? It means a number of things, from educational counselling, where a teacher advises you how to structure your schoolwork, to the Citizens Advice Bureau, which give legal advice. That's called counselling too. But counselling actually means the relationship between two people. The relationship you have when one person has some difficulty they want to work out and the other person helps them to analyse it by questioning them about it. They draw the person out and learn more about them, while the person who had the difficulty in the end improves their quality of life and boosts their confidence. That's what counselling means.
I work with deaf students from the age of 16 onwards, so it's important to have counselling skills. I might already have the knowledge, but this course has made me aware that I might have the knowledge, but I might not be putting it across in the right way. They might need counselling about problems in the home environment, sexual problems, problems with identity, all sorts of problems. So this is a good basic course, but I need more. Now, what difference does it make having a deaf tutor? Firstly, we can relate much more as a group to a deaf tutor. That's vital. But there's another benefit because we have similar experiences. Our experiences might be similar but different at the same time. And that's the same with counselling. Similar but different experiences. But a deaf tutor is important.
Why? I was watching Read Here on TV and I saw an advert for a counselling course for deaf people. I thought that'll do me because I'm a priest. I have a ministry with deaf people and I'm often approached. Well, I don't know everything, so I need to go on courses. I know there are plenty of courses for hearing people, but this was for deaf people, so I came along. It's really interesting, that's why.
Really, this is the first time I've been in a course where there are deaf students and a deaf tutor. It's fantastic. It means we can relate to each other, share our views. There's no communication problem, just group cohesion. It's very relaxing because it's all in sign. It's brilliant. As you can see, there are many reasons why people want to get involved. And the future planned courses will include information on areas such as abuse, including sexual abuse, loss and bereavement, marital and relationship difficulties, and mental health. If you're interested, watch out for announcements on teletext or in the deaf magazines. If you'd like more information or if you need help, you can call one of the following numbers in complete confidence. The text number is 01270 250 743. The voice number is 01270 250 736. Both lines are open Monday to Friday from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. The text line is also open on Wednesday from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. Next week, we look at HIV and AIDS in the deaf community. We hope you can join us. Till then, goodbye.